In 1945, when the UN was created, humanity had gone through two catastrophic wars. The First World War, in which 30 million people or so had died, and a Second World War, in which another 60 million people had perished. So the demand by the states to have some sort of security in the future to prevent the outbreak of a Third World War was so insistent that when President Roosevelt of the United States proposed creating this body called the UN, there was an immense attention given to the idea and great enthusiasm among the states that had won the Second World War to come together and actually put together this unusual organization that would stamp out the possibility of conflicts in the future. And that's what brought them together in San Francisco in 1945, and they drafted the UN Charter.
And it is now my duty, my honor and my privilege in the chair to call for a vote on the approval of the Charter of the United Nations.
The UN Charter was the sum and substance of humanity crying out for some sort of world order. They created a charter which reflected the aspirations of humanity for peace, for negotiating settlements, for handling food shortages and dealing with health issues and transportation and all the features that go into living a life on the planet. And that was the notion behind the UN. And frankly, the spirit was very enthusiastic at that time. Of course, we now know today that the UN has survived for 80 years through many different crises, and ones that sometimes it helped settle and sometimes was not able to help settle. Nonetheless, the aspiration to have this organization around is so deep in the human spirit that I just think that had the UN dissolved yesterday, it would be reinvented today. It's just so necessary, and we still look up to it as the place to get peace in this world. The world of today is better off, frankly, than it was in 1945. I think it's so important to remember what the UN is all about, why the UN Charter, which was established 80 years ago, is so significant for our lives. It has helped give the ground rules about how people should live their lives, how states should work with each other, how disputes can be settled. So it's almost a kind of guideline for how lives should be lived and how the earth should be governed. The UN represents symbolically the idea of collective security, the idea that we are all together in the plight of humankind, and that we cannot act separately. We have to be unified. Remember, the Charter, the UN Charter, is something we should all treasure for future generations.